I'm going to take a few minutes and describe a structure for partnership between the workforce investment and registered apprenticeship. And we're going to try the slide device. Hey, excellent. So the focus, of course, from our perspective is creating that partnership between registered apprenticeship and workforce investment. I suspect folks in the room have varying levels of the partnership. As we've visited the other regions, that's certainly been evident by the different types of folks that have been coming and participating in the action clinics. In particular, I have seen folks from organized labor, folks from training programs, community colleges, state administrators' offices, local workforce investment boards, local one-stops and their operators, and all of those different folks sort of have a piece of the puzzle that they can bring and contribute to putting together a pretty effective strategy for responding to the idea of using registered apprenticeship as a tool for supporting your workforce development. In Alaska, we are essentially a single area state. We're a single regional planning area, whereas most of the states have more than one local area. So I think it's important to recognize the relationship between the state and your local areas who exert a pretty significant amount of influence on the areas that you're going to choose to do training in, the strategies that you're going to use, and the methodology for investing in your resources. One of the important things that I think needs to occur is developing an understanding between the state administrator, the job centers, and registered apprenticeship. That means that folks need to be talking to each other and understanding what the roles and responsibilities are. And for those of you that are your WIA state administrators or your local folks that are really into using that tool, if you recall back when we were pulling our teams together, pulling our regions together and so forth, there was this MOU that we were supposed to put together, and it identified 4 key components of that MOU. Registered apprenticeship probably should have been one of those partners that you had at the table. And if you didn't have them at the table then, that's okay. There's still the opportunity to bring them in now and start making them an integral part of your workforce investment system. In states where there's a BAT or a SAC state, the two cognizant entities really function in the same manner. And so as long as you have that appropriate individual identified, that's the representative that should be working with either your state administrator or your local area. So you've got your 2 partners, 3 partners, however many folks it might take for you to pull that together, who agree that there is going to be some sort of an effort. And so getting that commitment from your leadership is important. Linda will actually talk about sort of the 4 steps that are important in bringing that together. One of those critical steps is identifying who the real leaders are in your organization, in your state, who can make policy decisions, take proactive steps to encourage your systems to align and work together. Some of the things that I think you want to think about in terms of putting your teams together and encouraging your local leadership to make some decisions around are certainly in terms of, for both systems, data tracking. Data tracking is important because, if you recall, we have to report back to Congress on some level and say, how are we doing? So this gives you the recognition that right up front you're putting sort of that first step forward of saying, we're going to understand right from the beginning what our roles and responsibilities are and answer that question, how we're doing. One of the things that's important in that question of how we're doing, I think that you'll quickly come to a realization on, is that some of us are interested in sort of some kind of short-term outcomes. And those short-term outcomes, particularly for your job center, state administrator folks, are getting folks into training, getting them out of training and into a job. Well, the reality is that apprenticeship is both training and employment. And I think that the creative states that are recognizing that and using that dual definition for registered apprenticeship are going to be most successful at demonstrating how their state is taking advantage of the system.